Hi, I'm Andrea. Thank you for joining me for this 30-minute yoga practice. I am standing on a yoga mat, but if you don't have one, fear not. Just find a place that's not too slippery, maybe a carpeted area. I am barefoot. If you prefer to have your shoes on, that's also completely okay. A couple of blocks would be good. If you don't have them, maybe some sturdy books, a folded blanket or towel. I happen to have a bolster, but you can take a cushion from your couch if that's useful or helpful as we go. And lastly, for this practice, I think using your chair is pretty key. I would say please have a chair with a pretty solid chair base to use for what we're going to do today. We'll lean into some balancing poses because balance on our mat is so inspiring as we seek balance off of our mat, don't you think? We'll start as we often do with our feet hip distance apart in mountain pose, Tadasana. It's kind of the pose that we stand in all the time, isn't it? But we neglect how we stand in mountain pose or into our day. So let's build it from the ground up. All 4 points of your feet into the ground. A little soft bend in your knees. We're neither sticking our butt out behind us nor tucking our tailbone, so it's just hips over heels. With your arms spinning away from each other and your palms facing out, you can sense a smile to your collarbones. Shoulders over hips, over heels. And lastly, lean your head back just a little. Let your chin stay parallel to the ground. Gaze at what I like to call our bright horizon. And breathe into this majestic mountain that you stand in for 3 moments. We'll add movement of our arms, a V shape as you inhale, thumbs to the sky, and then exhale, lower your arms alongside you, palms face out. Inhale, a V shape, thumbs to the sky. Exhale, float your arms along your side. Let's add a bend to our knees, thumbs to the sky. Straighten your legs, palms face out. Inhale, V shape, thumbs to the sky. We bend our knees. Exhale, straighten your legs, palms face out. Inhale, chair pose, V shape. Exhale, straighten your legs, palms face out. Twice more. Inhale, V shape, chair. Exhale, stand, palms face out. Inhale, thumbs to the sky, our V shape. Ready? As you straighten your legs, bring your right knee into your chest and then come back to your chair, hip distance, bend your knees, thumbs to the sky, V shape. Stand now on your right leg, arms float alongside you, but left knee into your chest. Stamp that left foot hip distance, bend your knees for your chair, V shape, thumbs to the sky. Stand on your left leg, bring your right knee into your chest. Hip distance, bend your knees, chair, thumbs to the sky. Stand on your right leg, left knee to your chest. One more round. Hip distance, thumbs to the sky. Stand on your left leg, right knee into your chest. Chair pose, thumbs to the sky. Left knee into your chest as you stand on your right leg. And then stand into your mountain. We won't worry about bending our knees. And feel balance on your 2 feet. We will be playing a little bit with that. Very good idea to have our friend the chair nearby. I'm going to situate it so that I actually have access to the back of it for what we're going to do first, and then we're going to need the seat of the chair in a moment. But I have my left hand on the seat or the back of the chair. You can decide whether or not that's something that you want. A wall is good too. Just something to know it's there if you want the help. Stand on your left leg. Bend your right knee into your chest. And you can hold underneath the hamstring if that's more appropriate, or start to hold on to your shin. What I'm not interested in is that you're reaching and rounding. So stand tall. just like our mountain pose. Bring that right knee in towards your chest. And give yourself a few moments to feel all 4 points of your left foot on the ground. Maybe you kind of play a little game like this, where you tap and let go. 2 moments here. Can you see the bright horizon? Sometimes if you look at the ground, actually, not in a way that rounds you, but just grounds you, that can be helpful. Step your right foot down, hip distance, and enjoy your mountain. You can switch your location. I'm going to switch my chair so that I don't change my location and you can see me. And now right hand on your chair base, or sorry, the back of the chair. And we will hug left knee into chest, and you can either hold the hamstring. Remember, we're not doing this business. We're not desperately holding the leg in. We're standing in our mountain and taking our left knee into our chest. Maybe it is that you hold on to the shin, and we're here for a little while. I'd like you to really focus on hugging the outer right hip into the midline, and you can play that little game of touching your chair, but just like not rounding our back, we're not collapsing here. So we want to keep that idea of standing in our mountain and letting the standing leg hug in, so the all 4 points at the feet is also helping with that outer hip hugging in. 2 moments, maybe you're playing tap with your hand on your wall or on the back of your chair. And then just find your mountain with your feet hip distance and your palms facing out, and a soft little bit of bend into your knees. I'll relocate my chair, but you can change sides. We'll play a little bit one more time with our balance here. Thumbs to the sky, a V shape. Do your best to stand on your left leg, and without holding on really to anything, bend your right knee into your chest. Remember the outer hip conversation we had a moment ago? We're not letting this collapse, so hug the outer hip in, stand into the majesty of your mountain. You can always do a wider V if that feels better to you. 3 moments here. Interesting how balance gets more challenging when we have to hold it for a while, right? Now just step down, hip distance, mountain pose, palms face out. Feel free to stand on the other side of your chair if you did, in fact, want to use that, or the wall. V shape, thumbs to the sky. Now this time we will stand on our right leg and bring our left knee towards our chest. We're standing tall. We're not forgetting to have a sense of humor. I think especially with balancing poses, sense of humor, super key. Oh, and you're breathing. Outer right hip is hugging in. We're not collapsed in any way. 2 more moments. How's it going? Step down into your mountain, palms face out, standing tall, breathing deep. Tree pose could be that you have your friend, the chair, within reach of your left hand. Now, take your right leg out in front of you. Let's put our right hand on our hip, and I want you to nerd out with me for a moment. So we're going to hug that left hip in, right? We're not going to dance a jig. I was almost doing that myself. And then just from your hip, turn your right leg out, right? We'll do it again. So toes to the sky, turn your right leg out. But hug your left hip in, and then you can either put your toes on the ground, keep that work going on. I'm saying it to myself as much as I am to you. Maybe climb your foot into the shin, but the action is happening in our hip, right, where we just found it. Some people might even climb that foot into the inner thigh. You're gonna have to be really careful that you don't get that sort of like sassy hip out to the side thing happening. Maybe you grow your branches out and up. You could grow one branch and have the other one on your chair. Stay a few moments. Feel its origin in your hip and in the trunk of your tree hugging towards a midline. 2 more moments, just as you are. Now bring your right hand onto your hip. Maybe it's both hands onto your hips or your left hand is on your chair. Turn your knee forward and step down, feet hip distance, into your mountain. You can wander to the other side of your chair or do as I do and switch your chair to the other side. Let's first establish our mountain. And then from our mountain we grow our tree. So we'll start very basically into that hip joint. I like my right hand on my chair. Stand onto your right leg. Extend your left leg out in front from the hip joint. Turn it out. Nerd out a little bit because you're feeling it here. Hug that right hip into the midline. Let's do that action one more time. So toes to the sky. And then from the hip, rotate that foot out. Keep all of that and either a little kickstand on the ground as we hug our tree trunk into the middle line, or place that foot into the shin, or maybe even into the inner thigh. So it's not a goal to get it into the inner thigh if it's not working that way for you today, especially because that can really lend itself to a lot of collapse. Now maybe one branch grows out to the side, or both branches grow out to the side. How's it going with the tree trunk hugging in? So outer right hip hugging in. And you do want to make sure that there's a little breeze in your trees. So you're breathing is what I'm saying. 2 more moments here. If it's wobbly, that's great. We're learning. Now take left hand onto your hip, right hand maybe onto the base of your chair. Turn your left knee forward and then step down into your mountain and appreciate 2 feet on the ground. See if you can feel ears over shoulders, over hips, over heels. 2 more moments. Relocate your chair so that it's facing you now at the front edge of your mat, because it is the base of our chair that we will now likely use, although it could be that you use the back of your chair. Stand into your mountain. Now with this one, I want us to be very careful that we don't get our head lower than our hips. You hear me say that a lot. That's going to be true of what we do right now. So take your hands onto your thighs and bend at your knees and get the hip hinge that we often do in a sun salutation, so that then you can negotiate. Do your hands want to go onto the back of your chair, or is it a little more solid and interesting to have your hands on the seat of your chair? Because what we will do now is turn our bodies into a letter T. So stand on your right leg and begin to extend your left leg back behind you. But it's spinning from its inseam, so you're not cranking your hip open like we're doing in arabesque. You keep your head high, your hand on the base of your chair, a bend in that right knee. If you find that it's actually more solid and beneficial to have your hands higher, that's great. I'm a big fan. And then we'll sustain it a little bit, and that's where balance gets interesting, because you can feel all the little wobbly, nuanced kind of bits of where balance lives. If you need to come out of this before I mention coming out of it, by all means. Remember our tree trunk, and you are hugging that outer hip in. Can you do that with your right hip now? 3 moments, hands go wherever they go, head stays higher than your hips. Your lifted leg is extending long and strong. Your bottom leg has a little bit of bend in it, and we keep hugging that outer hip in. 2 more. That was a long time, huh? Left foot, hip distance from right, hands to thighs. Inhale, get long. Exhale, a little hinge at your hips. Inhale, V shape, arms overhead, and then stand into your mountain and pause. Just feel all the feels from the first side. We're a little out of balance at the moment because we've done one side and not the other, right? Balance means so many different things, not just on one leg. Inhale, arms out and up in a V shape, and then hinge at your hips and take your hands onto your thighs. From here, we decide if we want to use the seat of the chair or the back of the chair, and it might be different from side to side. There's no problem with that. Now stand on your left leg and begin to extend your right leg behind you. Remember, tree trunk, outer hip hugging in, head never lower than hips. You're lifting your low belly and breathing, and that leg is lifting as if the inseam were spinning to the sky, so we're not cranking the hip open. We're seeing if we can be a very convincing letter T. Draw your low belly towards your spine, and at the same time, keep breathing. A little bend in your left leg is a very good idea, but you can straighten that lifted leg quite a bit. Now, you know we've got a relatively long moment here. Breath by breath. You're allowed midstream to take your hands to the chair back if it gives you a little bit more balance and maybe even a little bit more length. 2 more. Hug that outer left hip in. I only tell you because I know I need to be reminded. And then from here, slowly dismount. Right foot hip distance from left hands to thighs, knees bent. Inhale, heart forward. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Stand on both legs and pause. And for this last one, I definitely think the back of the chair or even at your wall would be better. I think a little taller is the way to go because I want us to be very true to head staying high. Now stand on your right leg and maybe with your hand on the back of your chair. So stand on your right leg. I'll face you actually with my chair in front of me-ish. I want you to be able to see me. So stand on your right leg and bend your left knee so that it's like you're kicking yourself in the butt. I will just keep moving and so that you can see me. You don't need to move. Right? Hand on the back of the chair, and then begin to kick that back a little bit, and you can go forward a little bit. You could even move your chair a little bit, but remember, we are not going to let your head get lower than your hips. So you're standing upright and kicking your leg back a little bit. It's a pose called King Dancer pose. I think it's appropriate. A few more moments here. Maybe you even take your hand away from the chair back and fall as I did and have that sense of humor in your back pocket and ready to go as you come back up to your King Dancer. It's important that one's King Dancer doesn't take itself too seriously, don't you think? And then let go of your left foot, hip distance. Let's take our hands onto our thighs. Inhale, lengthen to your spine. Exhale, hinge at your hips. And then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Arms along your side. Second and final side. Stand on your left leg. Left hand probably onto the back of the chair. Bend your right knee now and hold on to the ankle. If you can't hold on, it's fine. You can just attempt, or you could even lasso it with a strap or a towel. So something like, I believe this is a pillowcase, actually. You could just make a little bit of a way to hold on. And then we'll keep our head high, and our left hand on the back of the chair. And then you'll kick it back a little bit, but it's not a whole lot. We want to keep that tree trunk feeling in the outer left hip. We're standing tall. So if it feels like a lot to lasso your foot, just reaching towards it is totally great. You might play with lifting your hand. If you tumble and fall like I did on the first side, all that's required is that you find that sense of humor in your back pocket. You come back up and become King Dancer all over again. Maybe Queen Dancer. Now, if you're using a prop, do be very careful that you don't trip yourself as you let go. And then you can let your prop go off to the side, and we can turn our chairs and move them out of the way as well. And then inhale, arms out and up, a V shape. Exhale, hinge at your hips, hands to your thighs. Inhale, lengthen to your spine. If the seat of the chair is helpful to make your way down onto the ground, then use that, or even your blocks, but we will come to hands and knees. And a few things with hands and knees. Maybe you take that folded blanket and put it underneath for padding underneath your knees. The other thing that we want to really be conscientious about is that we've got our shoulders over our wrists. I like to keep my toes curled under because that's added padding for my knees. You can decide. Now draw your belly in towards your spine. Feel your hands mapped out into your mat. So you're spread wide, you've got the circumference of both palms, and all of your fingers are reaching as if reaching into clay almost, right? We're not back here where our shoulders are behind our wrists. We're not so far forward that it feels like it's too intense on your wrists. So that's why really making sure that we're shoulders over wrists is important. Now step your right foot back like you're flirting with a plank position. And as you do that, oomph into your arms a bit, feel your low belly lift. So we're not collapsed. We've got a little bit of push into our arms. Now you could stay here if you'd like, or lift up your right leg back behind you. We're lifting it like when we did that little T-shape standing, but now we're balanced on our left shin. That's where toes curled under might be really helpful. Now on your way into this, if you come onto your left fingertips, you can play with some balance. That might be enough. Or take your left arm out in front of you, palm faces to the side as if you were going to shake someone's hand. And I know that we don't do that anymore due to the pandemic, but just think back to 2019 and pretend like you are still in the handshaking game. And let your arm and your ear align here, and your right heel draw away. We're not collapsed into that right shoulder either. And then 3 more moments here. Release your left hand down and your right knee down. Sit onto your heels. You can keep your toes curled under, and let's just twirl our wrists. One direction, twirl our wrists. The other direction. Make a fist and open a few times. And we should be back in business to align our shoulders over our wrists, on our hands and knees. If you didn't use padding and you sort of wish that you did, perfect time to grab the padding and place it underneath your knees. Now let's get that positioning where we're not too far forward, we're not too far back. We're shoulders over the wrists. We're oomping into our arms so we're not collapsed in the shoulders. Step your left foot back like you're flirting with a plank with your left leg. So you're just right on that toes curled under, thigh bone pressing into the hamstring. And then play with lifting your left leg off the ground. See if that makes a sag happen in your upper body. Try not to do that. I know, it's tempting. It's kind of just a habit. Now start by coming onto your right fingertips, and maybe there's like a little balance that you play with there. I want you to oomph into your left arm so there's no collapse there. Perhaps you travel back in time and shake someone's hand with your right arm out in front of you and your palm facing towards the side. You're thinking your arm and your ear aligned. You're breathing, and you know that if you need to leave the pose before I mention it, you're more than welcome to do so anytime. Let's see if we can find some balance here for 3 moments together. And then right hand down and left knee down. This time child's pose. You may want to widen your knees a bit. Sit back. If knee flexion, so if bending your knees a lot is painful or not happening for you, you can just stay more like our hands and knees and wander your arms out in front of you with your butt to the sky. So I don't want you to force your knees into a child's pose if that doesn't feel good. Sometimes people's lower backs, in fact, feel like that more forward position feels good. So you can decide. 2 contemplative moments here in our bow, and if you want to make fists and open your hands or do any wrist twirls after our second side of hands and knees, feel free. Come up from your child's pose and lie down on your back. We come into a reclining pigeon, so a little hip stretch before our final Shavasana meditation. First, with your knees bent and your feet on the ground, you can even put your folded blanket underneath your head if that feels good to you. cross your right ankle on top of your left thigh, and it might be that this is where you stay. For some of us, this is the perfect stretch. You could even put this left foot on your wall, and sometimes that feels like the best stretch. Possibly thread the needle, right hand through the space, and then you hold the back of your left leg, or even interlace around your left shin. I'm looking at you, but you would like to have the back of your head on the ground as opposed to turning your head. So I'm turning my head so I can see you, but I'd like for you not to do as I say, not as I do. Let's be silent here, and let's dive a little bit into the balance of meditation, stillness and quiet. Feel free to close your eyes. I'm going to be silent for a full minute here. And just carefully place both of your feet hip distance on your mat. If you're at a wall, then maybe that's not going to be the case. You can just put both feet on the wall for a moment, and then cross your left ankle on top of your right thigh. Really flex into that foot, so curl the toes back, and maybe this is enough. One side might feel really different from the other for you. It sure does in my body. Maybe you put your right foot on the wall. Could be that you thread the needle, and if you thread the needle, that can be around the back of your right hamstring or around the front of your right shin. And then let's do our 1 minute of silence and meditation together, shall we? So well done. Unlace your hands, place your feet on your mat. Walk your feet as wide as your mat and snuggle your shoulders underneath you, and then just let your knees knock knee together. You could take your Shavasana final meditation like this, or extend one leg and then the other. Feet flop open, close your eyes, maybe even cover them with your folded towel. And then balance out the busy day with the stillness of this final meditation. You're welcome to stay here in your Shavasana final meditation as long as you'd like. If you're ready to find your way back, wiggle fingers and toes, stretch arms and legs away from each other, and then collect your knees into your chest and use your arms so that your head is the last thing to come up. You don't feel dizzied as you come to a seated position, any comfortable seated position. Your palms can go up or down. Just take a moment to feel the balance. A balanced practice gives us the opportunity to practice being balanced. in our lives. I'm Andrea. Thank you so much for practicing with me.